Buddhist teachings on surrendering your chronic tension. A tight, rigid band of physical armor is clamping across your jaw, collarbones, and ribcage tonight, holding your muscles in a silent, exhausting stance of perpetual battle readiness. Even here in the dark, your teeth remain pressed together, your shoulders are hitched high toward your ears, and your lungs take only shallow, guarded breaths, as if your nervous system is convinced that letting down your guard will expose you to an unexpected strike. You are lying awake while your body acts as a rigid, unyielding fortress wall, bracing against a phantom impact that never arrives, treating the quiet space of your room as an open, hostile territory. Let the surrounding air turn cool, breezy, and damp, carrying the clean fragrance of aged timber, fermented indigo, wet straw mats, and crushed mountain pine. Imagine yourself resting inside a high alpine arbor, built of smooth cedar posts and open to the night valley, where light winds drift freely through porous, hand-woven bamboo screens, without causing a single beam to creak. The sturdy bed beneath your spine supports your heavy hips and tense back, holding your full weight without asking you to maintain your invisible suit of iron mail for another second tonight. If you have been believing that keeping your muscles locked in tight tension is the only thing keeping you whole, let that heavy shield rest on the timber floorboards right now. Your weary body is not defective for guarding itself against old shocks, nor does your inability to unclench mean you have failed to find peace. This stubborn guarding is simply an old shield built by a loyal heart, and no law of nature demands that you keep your fortress walls locked tight before you are allowed to rest. Tonight your awareness can step out of its heavy mail and yield safely like a supple bamboo screen swaying in the valley wind. Consider the strange, painful paradox that sits at the center of our physical bracing. The harder we construct rigid, unyielding walls around our heart, the more vulnerable and exhausted we become when life's cold gusts blow past. We assume that by locking our jaw and stiffening our shoulders, we are building an impenetrable defense against sudden harm. Yet contemplative wisdom reveals a surprising, liberating truth. Stiff oak shutters that fight the mountain gale eventually snap under the pressure, trapping cold drafts behind their broken hinges. True safety is never found in rigid, brittle armor. True safety arrives when we become like an open, woven bamboo screen, allowing the passing wind to move freely through our loose mesh without breaking a single strand or disturbing the quiet space within. Dear friend, right now, maybe you have felt this exhausting physical stiffness too, during those late hours when every sudden sound in the house makes your muscles jump and tighten. You might feel a dull ache across your upper back, a tight knot behind your breastbone, or a persistent soreness in your jaw from clenching against life, leaving you feeling weary, hyper-vigilant, and unable to find real comfort. You might believe that if you dare to soften your chest and let your guard down, you will be left entirely defenseless, forcing your body to stay locked in a state of continuous emergency. If you have been viewing your physical guarding as a personal defect, know that your weary frame is held with deep, unconditional gentleness here. Take a slow, unhurried breath through your nose, letting the cool, penescented air expand your ribs, and let it pass from your mouth like a soft breeze drifting through open timber arches. You do not need to force your shoulders to drop to the mattress instantly, nor do you need to dissolve every tight knot in your muscles before morning arrives. There are no fortress gates you must defend in this quiet space, and if it feels right, you can unlatch your heavy iron mail for the next short while. You can simply allow your body to be supported by the steady bed, letting your breath move through your open frame like wind passing through a supple, woven screen. In a short while, our journey will ascend to a high stone bell tower above a windy gorge, where an elder bellkeeper unlatches heavy oak shutters during a howling mountain gale, showing a terrified former guard why rigid wood shatters under pressure, while open arches let the storm pass harmlessly through without shaking the tower. But for now, allow your jaw to soften slightly. Let the cool, damp breeze soothe your tight forehead and your tense neck. Allow your arms to rest heavy along your sides, your hands opening like loose, unstrung silk. Notice where your ribcage is holding that tight, protective armor against the world, and offer those sore muscles permission to yield against the bed. Listen to the soft, rhythmic rustling of woven bamboo screens swaying in the valley draft outside. You do not have to build a fortress around your sleep tonight, because a woven screen does not fight the mountain gale. It simply lets the wind pass through its open mesh, remaining whole, quiet, and completely unbroken. A steep, winding stair carved directly into cold granite leads toward the highest peak of the northern ridge, where the high stone bell tower stands against the clouds. Up here, where the mountain air smells of damp pine mist, ancient timber, brass, and wet lichen, lived a man named Ren. Years ago, Ren had served as a night watchman at the valley garrison, surviving sudden midnight raids and violent ambush attacks. Though those dark years had long since passed, his physical frame remained trapped in the old war. Even while sleeping, his jaw remained locked tight, his shoulders hitched up like iron armor plates, and his thick leather boots stayed strapped firmly to his feet. On nights when the cold valley gales roared through the mountain pass, Ren could not lie down at all. He would walk up and down the stone gallery of the bell tower, his muscles stiff, his teeth grinding in the dark. He carried in his pocket a hand-carved oak door latch peg, worn smooth by decades of nervous hand contact. Whenever a strong gust rattled the heavy timber shutters of the tower, Ren would rush to drive the oak peg deeper into the iron latch, trying desperately to lock the wooden panels tight against the storm. He believed with absolute certainty that if a single shutter blew open, the cold wind would enter the stone tower, shatter the bronze bell, and tear the sanctuary apart. High up in the bell chamber, sitting quietly on a low wooden bench beside the great bronze bell, lived Master Tenzin. The old bellkeeper wore a faded dark robe, his hands weathered like gnarled cedar roots, his face calm and unhurried, like the deep stone arches surrounding the platform. Master Tenzin had lived in the tower through 40 winters of severe mountain storms. He watched the former guard pace back and forth along the gallery, noticing the rigid stiffness in Ren's neck, the sharp clenching of his jaw, and the frantic way his fingers clutched the oak peg. Outside, the valley gale gathered force, howling through the stone arches with terrifying power. The heavy oak shutters slammed violently against their iron hinges, groaning under the pressure of the wind. Ren rushed forward, his face pale, his breath ragged, slamming his weight against the shivering wood. He grabbed the carved oak door latch peg, jamming it into the heavy iron staple, trying to force the timber door into total unyielding rigidity. But as the gale struck with full force, a sickening crack echoed through the chamber. The oak shutter, locked too tight against the wind, split down its grain, splintering open and showering the stone floor with sharp wooden fragments. Ren stumbled back, his chest tight, his hands trembling as he stared at the broken timber. He gripped the smooth door latch peg like a weapon, his heart pounding against his ribs, expecting the room to be destroyed. He cried out to Master Tenzin, asking why the sturdy wood had failed, asking how any man or structure could survive when even thick oak shutters snapped under the force of the storm. Master Tenzin did not jump up, nor did he reach for a hammer or a spare latch. He stood up slowly, his dark robes rustling in the cool draft, and walked toward the broken window arch. He looked at Ren with profound, quiet gentleness, his eyes holding no trace of fear or judgment. He reached down and took the smooth oak door latch peg from Ren's stiff, frozen fingers. Instead of trying to repair the broken shutter, Master Tenzin reached across to the remaining unbroken window on the opposite side of the gallery. He pulled out its iron pin, unlatched its oak peg, and pushed both heavy wooden shutters wide open to the night air. Ren gasped, stepping back against the great bronze bell, bracing his body for disaster. He shouted into the gale, begging the old keeper to close the arch, warning him that opening the tower would allow the fierce wind to destroy everything inside. The howling gale surged through the open stone arch, sweeping across the wide platform in a cold, rushing draft, but a strange, quiet miracle occurred in that exact second. Because the shutters on both sides were wide open, the mountain wind did not smash against any wooden barrier. It did not build up pressure, nor did it shatter a single beam. The cold gale simply entered through one open stone arch, swept smoothly across the floor, and passed freely out through the opposite window into the open sky beyond. The massive bronze bell hung completely still, echoing with a faint, peaceful hum as the air brushed past its heavy rim. Master Tenzin held the smooth oak door latch peg in his palm, letting the cool mountain wind blow over his open hand. He looked at the former watchman, his voice low and steady, carrying through the rushing air like a quiet melody. He asked Ren why he spent all his strength trying to turn his body into a locked wooden shutter, when his true spirit was born to be the open stone arch. Ren stood frozen in the middle of the gallery, his boots anchored to the floor, the cold mountain breeze swirling around his face and neck. He looked at the wide-open arches, then down at the smooth oak peg in Tenzin's hand. He saw how the wood had split only when it fought the wind, while the open air allowed the storm to pass through, without leaving a single scar upon the stone. A sudden, deep wave of emotional recognition washed through Ren's chest, melting a cold knot that had been frozen behind his collarbones for years. A quiet sob rose in his throat, catching in his tight jaw. He realized that for a decade he had been treating every breath, every sound, and every feeling as an invading enemy, locking his muscles into a rigid wooden barrier that was slowly cracking under its own internal strain. He had been trying to protect himself by becoming brittle, completely unaware that his rigid armor was the very thing causing his pain. He took a slow, unhurried breath of the cold, penescented mountain air, feeling it enter his lungs without encountering a closed door. He let his high, hitched shoulders drop 2 inches away from his ears. He unclenched his jaw, letting his teeth part, and felt the tight band across his forehead begin to yield. Master Tenzin gently placed the carved oak door latch peg onto a flat granite windowsill. Leaving it there in the open breeze, he sat back down on his low wooden bench, looking out at the vast dark valley below, surrounded by the cool air moving freely through the stone arches. Ren walked slowly to the edge of the platform, unbuckling the heavy iron straps of his guard boots, dropping the thick leather footwear onto the stone floor. He stood barefoot on the cool granite, feeling the mountain wind brush past his skin, realizing that he did not need to fight the storm to remain standing, because an open heart lets the wind pass through without ever breaking. This quiet realization atop the granite tower reveals a profound shift in how we relate to our internal armor. Ancient contemplative wisdom does not ask you to deaden your sensitivity, nor does it tell you to become unfeeling or detached like cold stone. When the old bellkeeper opens the wooden shutters to the night gale, he is demonstrating how our habitual bracing transforms a temporary breeze into a painful, destructive force. Notice what happens inside your own body when you sense a sudden change or emotional threat. In those moments, our desperate craving for absolute safety acts like a heavy iron bolt, slamming shut every window of the heart and holding the muscles in a state of permanent strain. We lock our shoulders and clench our teeth, believing that if we remain perfectly rigid, no external disturbance can ever touch our fragile spirit. The timeless insights of the Buddhist path show us that human distress is composed of 2 distinct layers. The first layer is the simple, real impact of living in an unpredictable world, the natural fact that cold winds blow, that sudden shocks occur, and that past painful events left real marks upon our memory. Someone speaks a harsh word, a cherished bond dissolves, or life demands that we face a frightening unknown. That initial shock is a clean, honest hurt, an immediate sensation that moves through the nervous system like a gust of wind through an open mountain pass. The secondary layer, however, is where our chronic, aching armor takes root and hardens over time. It happens when our mind takes that original shock and builds a permanent fortress around it, keeping the body locked in battle readiness long after the storm has passed. We convince ourselves that because we were hurt once, we must never unclench our jaw again, turning a single past event into a lifelong sentence of physical hypervigilance. The original wind lasted only a moment, but our ongoing resistance builds immense pressure behind closed doors, fracturing our peace from the inside out. When ancient teachings speak of yielding, they are not inviting us to become helpless or to welcome harm. They are describing the vast, quiet truth that your true awareness is an open stone arch, fully capable of letting life's turbulence sweep through without retaining a single mark. True equanimity becomes possible when you realize that a supple woven screen swaying in a valley draft does not need to fight the wind to preserve its structure. The screen is not weak, cowardly, or defeated. It simply allows the air to move through its open spaces, remaining whole precisely because it refuses to stand rigid against the draft. Mindfulness in this soft setting is the gentle, unhurried presence that notices when you have bolted your internal doors against the world. It is not a harsh voice scolding you for guarding your heart. It is simply the quiet awareness that sees how tightly you are gripping the iron latch, touches those tired hands with kindness, and reminds you that the storm outside is no longer trying to tear down your house. It is choosing to unlatch the wooden shutters and let the cool air restore your tired chest. When we lack this spacious awareness, our fear of being hurt turns our own flesh into an exhausting prison. We convince ourselves that real peace can only arrive after we eliminate every threat, control every variable, or force the world to guarantee our safety. We spend our precious energy bracing against imaginary blows, grinding our teeth in the dark and wearing out our joints, because we dare not let the room breathe. The truth of impermanence brings immense relief to this hyper-vigilant state of mind. Impermanence reminds us that all emotional storms are impermanent weather patterns, that harsh words fade as quickly as mountain mist, and that even the fiercest valley gales eventually spend their force and vanish into quiet air. The shock you suffered in the past is no longer happening in this room, and the uncertainties of tomorrow cannot break a spirit that knows how to yield. When you stop treating every passing feeling as a hostile intruder, you discover that your inner sanctuary has been safe all along. If we allow our awareness to rest like cool mountain air moving through an open bell chamber, a deep self-compassion opens within the heart. This compassion begins when you extend unconditional gentleness to the tired, aching body lying in your bed tonight. It is the choice to stop viewing your physical tension as a frustrating defect that must be conquered. It is granting your muscles full permission to drop their heavy mail, to soften around old scars, and to rest without needing to defend their right to exist. Notice how your protective mind might still want to resist this quiet insight tonight. You might hear a small, anxious voice whispering that if you relax your shoulders, you will be caught unprepared, or that opening your heart is a dangerous invitation to future pain. That defensive thought is merely an old habit of armor, trying to convince you that safety depends on remaining rigid forever. You can let that exhausting argument rest quietly on the granite floor beside the smooth oak peg. You do not need to dismantle every internal wall before morning, nor do you need to force your muscles to become completely soft tonight. The simple act of noticing where your jaw is holding tension is enough. Just as the former watchman stood barefoot on the cool stone and felt the mountain wind brush past his skin, simply acknowledging the open space within your own breath is the exact moment your body begins to return to its natural rest. In a short while, we will move into a gentle inner practice that allows your physical frame to step out of its heavy mail, letting your shoulders drop as you lay down the burden of chronic defense and sway like a woven bamboo screen in the quiet valley air. But for now, let the penescented breeze fill your chest, knowing that an open stone arch does not fight the mountain gale. It simply lets the wind pass through, remaining standing, whole and completely unbroken in the quiet dark. If it feels comfortable for you in this still space, allow your breath to find its own natural, unhurried pace. There is no need to count your breaths, nor do you have to regulate how deeply your chest rises and falls. Simply notice the cool air as it enters your nostrils, resting for a quiet beat within your lungs before drifting softly back out into the room. If your jaw or shoulders feel tightly locked from years of bracing against life, let those places remain exactly as they are without trying to force an immediate release. Perhaps you might bring a gentle, soft awareness to the physical sensations in your face, your neck, and the space between your shoulder blades. Notice if your teeth are pressed firmly together, as if your mouth is holding shut a heavy wooden shutter against an incoming storm. You can allow your jaw to unclamp slightly, letting your tongue rest loosely on the floor of your mouth, and allow your collarbones to spread wide, giving your lungs permission to expand without the heavy weight of an invisible shield. As you lie here in the dark, a specific memory of being caught off guard, a recent moment of sudden tension, or a habitual fear of future harm might surface in your mind. It could be an old argument that made your heart pound, a sudden disruption that left you feeling exposed, or a persistent physical bracing that keeps your body on high alert. Do not attempt to push this feeling away, nor do you need to chastise yourself for staying so guarded. Simply watch the sensation as if it were a sudden mountain gust blowing past an open stone archway. Perhaps you can give this protective habit a quiet, gentle name. You might silently whisper to yourself, holding the latch, or bracing for impact, or wearing the old armor. Naming the pattern weakens its ability to pull your nervous system into a state of false battle readiness. It transforms a lifelong habit of muscle tension into a single, temporary feeling passing through the spacious room of your awareness. Now, if it feels right, invite into your mind the image of that hand-carved oak door latch peg, worn smooth and dark from decades of anxious touch. Picture holding that small, heavy piece of wood in your hands, feeling its dense grain and cool surface. Imagine gently setting that wooden peg down onto a flat granite windowsill inside a high open bell tower. Let every habit of physical defense, every old fear of being struck, and every tight contraction across your chest drop directly into that smooth wooden peg. Watch as the cold granite window ledge receives the object, holding it steady without any tension, without any strain, and without any need to lock the room against the night. Instead of fighting the passing winds of memory or worry, picture your entire torso becoming like a supple, woven bamboo screen hanging in a high mountain pavilion. Feel the porous, flexible mesh of your ribs, your back, and your shoulders. Imagine allowing the cool valley breeze to blow right through the open spaces of your woven frame. See how the gentle air passes through from front to back, sweeping away stale heat and tension without catching on any rigid wooden bars, without causing a single strand to snap, and without disturbing the deep, quiet center resting within you. Notice what happens to your chest as you allow the breeze to move freely through your woven frame. You might feel a subtle unspooling of tightness around your breastbone as your breath settles into a slow, effortless rhythm. You might feel your lower back melting into the mattress, relinquishing its long duty of standing guard against unexpected shocks. The sudden gales and loud noises of the world remain outside, while you rest completely whole in this open, airy sanctuary. If another wave of physical tightness or mental vigilance rises in your body, you can let that draft pass through the woven bamboo screen as well. Watch how the cool air enters the open mesh, carried smoothly along by the mountain breeze without tearing the thin bamboo strands, without forcing you to bolt the shutters, and without demanding that you stand rigid against the draft. The valley wind glides past, the oak peg rests quietly on the granite ledge, and the open bell tower wraps your rest in deep, spacious ease. Perhaps you can imagine tiny droplets of penescented mountain mist brushing softly against your skin, cooling the tired muscles that have held your shoulders high for so long. Feel the damp alpine air soothing your temples and your neck, easing the old strain behind your ears. The battles of the past belong to another time, but your living body rests safely right here in this quiet, open space. There is no need to force a sudden, total unclenching tonight. You do not have to feel entirely soft or free of armor before your eyes are permitted to close in sleep. The purpose of this gentle practice is not to strip away your natural self-protection, but to give your nervous system permission to drop its heavy mail while your body lies supported. Even if you only feel a momentary softening in your jaw before your thoughts tighten again. That brief second of release is a sacred sanctuary for your weary heart. Whenever you notice your body bracing again against an imaginary blow, gently guide your focus back to the physical sensation of your breath moving through your open frame. There is no error in tightening, and no need to judge your protective instinct. You simply return, like a traveler standing barefoot on cool granite in an open tower, taking another quiet breath as the mountain wind glides past. Let your breathing remain slow, smooth, and completely unforced, flowing through you like the steady valley breeze. Feel the gentle rise of your ribs as fresh, penescented air arrives, and the long, easy release as the breath leaves your body. You are not required to hold up a fortress wall tonight. Your open, woven heart is already whole, safely cradling your rest in the calm, unhurried dark. In a short while, our story will guide us deeper into an open-air mountain dye house, where an elder silk dyer uses a slotted cedar shuttle to show a fearful merchant why delicate threads rot when locked tight in heavy boxes, but thrive when allowed to breathe in the open air. But for now, remain here with your quiet breath, letting your physical frame enjoy this weightless, unburdened rest from the labor of standing guard. Farther down the mountain, where the stony torrent opens into a wide, marshy valley, stands an ancient timber dye house built over a cold mountain stream. The air here smells richly of fermented indigo vats, boiled walnut bark, damp river silt, and dried straw. Under the high timber eaves, long hanks of newly dyed thread hang from bamboo poles, swaying gently in the cool draft that flows continually across the water. Working near the stone basins was a merchant tailor named Sora, a man who lived in perpetual terror of loss and ruin. Years before, a sudden fire in the lower city had destroyed his entire warehouse, consuming months of precious inventory in a single night. Ever since that catastrophic event, Sora treated every raw material with frantic, smothering protection. He bought heavy, lead-lined oak chests, wrapping his finest raw silk skeins in thick oilcloth, sealing the lids with heavy iron latches, and locking them away in airtight, dark cellars. Yet when he opened those heavy chests after the damp winter season, his heart sank in despair. The precious silk, deprived of natural air and sealed in its own trapped moisture, had mildewed and rotted in the dark, its delicate fibers turning brittle, stained, and utterly useless. Driven by panic and rage, Sora had traveled up to the mountain dyer's sanctuary, convinced that the dyer had sold him defective yarn. Sitting on a low cedar stool near the stream was Sister Mira, an elder dyer, whose hands were permanently stained a deep, peaceful indigo. She worked in quiet, deliberate rhythm, holding a slotted cedar weaving shuttle polished to a glassy sheen by decades of raw silk thread. She was currently rinsing fresh skeins in the cold, running current, letting the clear water carry away excess pigment without pulling or snapping the delicate strands. Sora stood on the damp flagstones, his jaw clenched, his shoulders braced high beneath his heavy woolen cloak. He threw a bundle of ruined, brittle thread onto the cedar workbench, his voice sharp with bitter blame. He accused the workshop of selling him weak silk, shouting that he had spent small fortunes on heavy lead-lined boxes to protect the thread from external harm, only to find the material destroyed from within. He demanded to know how any merchant could safeguard what he loved when even the strongest iron locks failed to preserve it. Sister Mira did not raise her voice, nor did she flinch from his anger. She paused her dipping frame, laid the slotted cedar shuttle across her knees, and looked up with eyes as clear and unhurried as the mountain stream. She reached out, picked up a strand of the brittle, mildewed silk, and crushed it gently between her dark blue fingers. It crumbled into dry dust. She then reached toward a nearby drying rack and pulled down a hank of raw, unspun silk that had hung exposed to the elements under the open eaves. She placed the soft, shimmering thread into Sora's tight, cold palm, telling him to pull upon it with all his strength. Sora gripped the loose fibers and yanked them apart with a sudden, angry jerk, but instead of snapping, the supple silk yielded slightly to his grip, stretching with natural elasticity, its long, open strands sliding smoothly past one another without breaking. Sister Mira picked up her slotted cedar shuttle once more, pointing its smooth tip toward the open bamboo racks swaying in the valley breeze. She spoke with low, quiet resonance that settled beneath the sound of the rushing water. She told the tailor that his lead-lined chests had not protected the silk. They had suffocated it. She explained that raw silk is a living, breathing material born of nature, requiring the constant, gentle passage of fresh air to maintain its strength and luster. When sealed tightly in dark iron boxes out of fear, the trapped dampness turned to poison, rotting the very fibers he sought to save. She pointed to the slotted cedar shuttle, showing him how the open grooves allowed the thread to pass through without friction, without catching, and without building destructive heat as the loom moved. Sora stared at the soft silk in his hand, his breath catching in his throat. The old rage in his chest faltered, replaced by a sudden aching wave of grief. He saw with startling clarity that his entire life had become like those heavy lead-lined boxes. Since the night of the fire, he had locked his own heart in an airtight chest of muscular tension and suspicion, smothering his relationships, refusing to trust anyone. and treating every unpredictable event as an impending blaze. He had been trying to prevent future hurt by turning his life into a dark vault, only to find that his own rigid protection was rotting his spirit from within. Sister Mira picked up a fresh, wet skein of blue silk and handed it to the trembling tailor. She asked him to carry it out to the open drying poles over the river, without wrapping it in oilcloth, without locking it away, and without demanding that it stay dry forever. Sora stood motionless on the wet timber floorboards for a long moment, feeling the cold, damp silk in his fingers and hearing the cool wind rustle through the bamboo poles outside. His mind urged him to resist, whispering that leaving the thread in the open air was foolish and dangerous. But he paused. He took a single, slow breath, feeling the cool alpine air fill his chest, and decided not to treat that fearful thought as absolute truth. With deliberate, unhurried steps, he walked out onto the open wooden balcony above the rushing river. He uncoiled the long blue skein and draped it loosely over a high bamboo pole, letting the mountain breeze lift the delicate fibers and blow right through them. He stood beside the swaying silk, his hands hanging open at his sides, his shoulders dropping lower than they had in years. He felt the cool spray of the river on his face, the open sky above his head, and the quiet realization that safety was not something he could lock in an iron box. He saw that true resilience lay in remaining open, like the slotted shuttle, allowing the winds of life to pass through his days without tearing the fabric of his soul. This quiet realization on the open dyer's balcony brings us face to face with the exact emotional mechanism that generates so much of our silent, daily exhaustion. When we examine our chronic physical tension with slow, honest attention, we discover that our pain rarely comes from the actual world around us. It rises instead from the invisible, unyielding war we wage against our own vulnerability, trying to fix ourselves through shame and turning our protective habits into a permanent identity. Consider the profound difference between a cold alpine gale blowing through a mountain valley and a traveler who weaves a suit of heavy, iron mail, straps it tightly over his chest, and then despairs because he cannot breathe freely while walking up the trail. The cold gale moving through the gorge is the primary reality of living in an impermanent world, an uncalculating event that touches every leaf and stone without any personal malice. That initial draft represents the real, unavoidable conditions of human life. The fact that plans change, that trust is sometimes broken, or that bodies experience sudden shocks. That primary experience carries its own simple, clean reality, a passing sensation that moves through the heart and leaves no lasting stain. The secondary agony, however, is the artificial weight we manufacture when we take that heavy iron mail, bolt its joints shut, and refuse to unclench our jaw long after the storm has cleared the ridge. We create a second storm inside our own body when we demand that no cold draft must ever touch us again. We take a simple past disruption and build a lifelong fortress around it, forcing our collarbones to stay high, our teeth to press together, and our ribs to take shallow, guarded breaths. This continuous physical bracing is not real protection. It is merely the mind trying to enforce its rigid, terrified control over a world that remains naturally open and dynamic. When we cling to this secondary suffering, we slowly convert our old wounds into a rigid identity. We begin to view ourselves not as a living, spacious presence resting in an open arbor, but as a perpetual victim who must stay permanently armored to survive. We replay past betrayals like an endless, painful theater, torturing our muscles with memories of old impacts and bracing against blows that happened years ago. We rehearse future catastrophes before they even appear on the horizon, convincing ourselves that relaxing our jaw for even 1 hour is a dangerous mistake that will invite immediate ruin. This relentless need for absolute defense is a subtle trap that starves our spirit of genuine peace. When we measure our safety by how tightly we can lock our internal shutters, we surrender our freedom to the very fear we are trying to escape. We turn our body into a dark, airtight vault, suffocating our capacity for joy, intimacy, and rest under the heavy weight of our own suspicion. Yet no amount of muscle tension can ever prevent life from moving, and no fortress wall can offer the deep, natural ease that belongs to an open heart. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that true liberation does not come from attempting to stop the mountain wind, nor does it require you to construct an indestructible armor that no feeling can pierce. Freedom arrives in the quiet second, when you change your fundamental relationship with the cold draft passing through your life. It is the realization that while the world will always contain unexpected gusts and changing seasons, you do not have to turn your body into a locked wooden shutter to meet them. You can allow your spirit to exist like a supple, woven bamboo screen, yielding and swaying in the valley air, letting the draft pass freely through your open frame without breaking a single strand. Your true awareness is like the slotted cedar shuttle resting in the open air, polished smooth by experience, allowing every thread of feeling to slide through its grooves without catching, without building heat, and without causing a tear. Your essential worth is not defined by how flawlessly you can shield yourself from discomfort. The emotional shocks and uncertainties of your life are real events, but they are not a permanent sentence, nor are they proof that you are weak. They are simply passing currents of air, moving across the vast, open stone arches of your true nature. As you lie here in the dark tonight, notice how your protective mind might still want to argue with this soft yielding. You might feel a subtle urge to tighten your shoulders, to check your internal defenses, or to worry about whether you will be strong enough to face tomorrow's demands. You do not need to fight those anxious thoughts, nor do you need to force your body to feel completely soft right now. They are merely old protection reflexes, built by a nervous system that learned to use tension as a shield against the pain of being caught off guard. You are permitted to step out of that heavy mail right now. You do not need to settle every battle of your past tonight, and you do not need to guarantee your absolute safety before your eyes are allowed to close in sleep. In these quiet, shadowy hours, you can unlatch the heavy door latch peg, set down your need for total defense, and allow your tired frame to rest in the cool, unburdened open air of this present moment. This quiet understanding of the slotted cedar shuttle and the unlatched shutter is not a distant myth meant to stay hidden in high mountain towers. It is a living, resilient shelter built for the small, heavy collisions of your ordinary morning. Tomorrow, when you step back into the rushing currents of your personal routine, the world will test your open arches with its familiar, noisy friction. Glowing screens will vibrate with sudden demands. Friends or co-workers will project their unexamined tensions, and your old habit of bodyguarding will try to slam every internal window shut against the cold. Consider what happens when you sit in your living room or at a busy desk, waiting for a delayed reply to an important message. In a single split second, a cold spike of panic shoots across your collarbones, urging you to clench your jaw, lock your neck, and prepare your chest for an incoming rejection. Your hands reach compulsively for a glowing phone screen every 2 minutes, hunting for a quick drop of reassurance, trying to force an unpredictable human relationship into a rigid, airtight box. In that exact moment, you are acting like the terrified tailor, sealing your raw silk inside a heavy lead-lined chest, because you cannot bear the movement of the open air. When that familiar contraction grips your body tomorrow afternoon, you do not need to scold your muscle memory, nor do you have to pretend that you are completely immune to fear. You can pause for one quiet second, feel the firm floor beneath your heels, and let your jaw drop open slightly. Remind yourself that an unreturned message is merely a cold draft passing through an open stone arch, while the true foundation of your spirit remains wide, spacious, and completely unbroken. You can care deeply about a person or a project without gripping the fiber until it snaps in your hands. You can allow an uncertain situation to breathe, letting the air move through your woven frame without turning your own body into an iron fortress. Think too of those heavy hours when you look around at your peers, feeling painfully behind in your career, your financial security, or your personal path. You stand in a brightly lit room wearing a forced, agreeable smile while a dull, aching weight sits behind your breastbone, pretending that everything is perfectly fine so no one sees how exhausted you truly are. You convince yourself that your worth exists only in how flawlessly you can maintain an armor of success, viewing your natural need for rest as an embarrassing vulnerability that must be hidden away. If that sharp sense of inadequacy visits your heart tomorrow, Remember that a woven bamboo screen swaying in a mountain pavilion does not compare its open mesh to the polished stone walls of the palace. It stands quietly in its own space, yielding gracefully to the valley breeze, trusting that its flexibility is its greatest strength. Real dignity does not come from building an impenetrable, unfeeling exterior against the world. True dignity arrives when you allow yourself to be an authentic human being who feels vulnerable, who takes a slow breath, and who allows life to move through without demanding that every strand remain perfectly rigid. Consider also the restless guilt that steals into your bedroom when your body asks for quiet rest. You lie down after a long, draining day, but your mind immediately launches an interrogation, reviewing your small mistakes, accusing you of unproductivity, and insisting that you have not earned the right to relax. You feel a sudden compulsion to check late emails, plan tomorrow's endless chores, or rehearse past conversations, treating sleep as a luxury you must pay for through relentless self-punishment. When that sharp voice of self-criticism rises in the dark, recognize it as the old guard trying to jam the door latch peg back into the iron staple. An open bell tower does not apologize to the mountain gale for having empty arches. It simply stands on its granite foundation, letting the air move freely through its chamber without needing to justify its presence to the storm. You do not need to earn your permission to rest, nor do you need to fix every flaw in your life before your shoulders are allowed to drop toward the bed. Every ordinary hour will give you small opportunities to unlatch your heavy shutters and let your spirit breathe. When an unexpected argument flares up at home, or when a sudden setback threatens your plans, your body will naturally want to brace for impact. That initial contraction is merely an old survival reflex. You do not need to judge yourself for feeling the tightening in your chest. The quiet practice lies in what you do right after that initial shock. Instead of taking that momentary tension and building a permanent suit of mail around it, you can take a slow, unhurried breath. You can feel the mountain air moving through your lungs. Loosen the tight muscles around your ears, and choose not to obey the frantic commands of your protective mind. You can allow a difficult feeling to sweep through your awareness, like wind through an open window, knowing that it will pass out the other side without destroying your inner peace. You can hold genuine love for your work and your family while leaving your hands open and relaxed. You can meet your daily responsibilities with steady, flexible presence, and then step back into stillness when the work is done, dropping your heavy tools onto the timber floor. This is not passive weakness. It is the deep, enduring resilience of a heart that has stopped fighting the wind and learned to sway like woven bamboo in the mountain air. As the quiet night deepens around your room, let these practical reflections settle softly into your thoughts. You do not need to master them completely by sunrise, nor do you need to force every tight muscle to soften before dawn. Simply carry the gentle image of the slotted cedar shuttle with you as your body grows heavy. Know that every time you choose to unclenching your jaw, every time you let go of an unnecessary demand for total control, and every time you allow yourself to rest without guilt, you are unlatching the heavy shutter and stepping into the calm, open freedom of your true nature. Now, as the deepest dark of the night settles across your room, the quiet around your bed turns soft, cool, and still. The old, fierce impulse to brace your muscles against life has dissolved into the shadows, leaving an open, unburdened presence behind. There are no heavy wooden shutters to bolt tonight, no iron mail to strap across your chest, and no unexpected impacts to guard against. Everything you have carried through your long day, every sudden shock from your past, and every habit of physical hyper-vigilance has laid down its heavy shield, resting peacefully upon the smooth stone floor of your awareness. Imagine the high mountain bell tower far above the valley, wrapped in total, undisturbed quiet. The cool alpine air drifts freely through the wide, open stone arches, brushing past the massive bronze bell without making a single vibration. Down near the mountain stream, the open timber dye house rests in the dark, smelling of rich indigo, damp earth, and pine. Long, shimmering skeins of raw silk hang from open bamboo poles under the high eaves, swaying gently in the night breeze, breathing the cool draft without catching, without tearing, and without a single locked box in sight. There is no tension here now, except for the soft, quiet rhythm of your own breath moving gently through your chest. Your lungs open without effort, receiving the cool air like wind, entering a porous woven bamboo screen, and then releasing it back into the shadowy room without any strain, without any tightness, and without any rush. With every slow exhalation, your physical frame sinks deeper into the firm, supportive mattress beneath you. Your jaw lies completely unclasped, your teeth parted, your tongue soft and heavy. Your shoulders drop down toward the bed, broad, relaxed, and entirely freed from their long duty of standing guard. Allow your mind to become as spacious and airy as that open stone gallery. You do not need to defend your heart against tomorrow's weather tonight, nor do you need to fix every old scar before your eyelids can close. The tired watchman who spent years clenching his fists around an oak peg has set down his burden, leaving your spirit light, supple and resting on solid granite. The slotted cedar shuttle rests quietly on its workbench. The open arches let the night breeze pass freely through, and your true nature remains whole, untouched, and unshakable in the dark. Feel a deep, soothing cool spreading through your face, your neck, and the spaces behind your ears, melting the final stubborn knots left from years of bracing against the wind. The tight bands across your collarbones have unraveled completely, giving your ribs total freedom to expand and contract with the quiet current of your breath. There are no fortress walls you must defend in this silent hour, no alarms waiting to sound, and no price you must pay to earn this weightless ease. Let the quiet wisdom of the open arch settle deep into your soul. The stone archway does not fight the mountain gale, nor does it fear that the passing draft will destroy its foundation. It simply stands on its bedrock, letting the cold air enter and leave without resistance, trusting that its true nature is the vast open space that remains unchanged through every storm. You are permitted to trust that same open space within yourself tonight. You are permitted to let your weary body rest in its soft flesh, knowing that your true awareness is not a fragile wooden shutter, but the wide, open sky that lets all weather pass through in peace. Your breath grows slower now, quieter, moving like a soft mountain draft through open timber beams. Inhalation arrives like a gentle, penescented wave, and exhalation leaves like cool air drifting across wet river stones. Each slow, unhurried cycle carries you deeper away from the waking world, drawing you down into the calm, weightless sanctuary of deep sleep. You are stepping out of the iron mail you wore for so long, unlatching every heavy door, and returning to the quiet, open home that has been waiting for you all along. The dark night will shelter you through these quiet hours, keeping your room safe, while the valley wind whispers through the pine needles outside. There are no battles you need to win before morning arrives, no defense you must construct, and no vulnerability you need to hide. You are safe to let your body grow completely heavy now. You are safe to let your awareness expand into the vast, gentle dark, floating like raw silk suspended in a cool mountain breeze. As the last quiet words fade into complete silence, let your heart rest upon this one haunting reflection. What if the iron armor you wore to protect yourself from life was the very thing keeping you from feeling how safely the world has been holding you all along? And in that safe, spacious holding, your body yields even further into the cool depth of the night. The lingering urge to guard your heart against the unpredictable currents of living dissolves like thin mountain mist against wet stone. All the old, heavy armor that you carried up the trail, every habit of clenching your muscles in anticipation of a blow, and every silent fear of being caught unprepared has laid its weight down upon the floor of this quiet room. There is nothing left to defend against, no sudden impact to intercept, and no fortress gates that require your vigilant care. Imagine the high mountain bell tower as the midnight hours turn deeper and stiller above the valley. The high alpine breezes move with a gentle rhythmic ease through the wide stone arches, touching the dark bronze bell without causing a single vibration to disturb the silence. Down along the river, the open dye house rests under the shadow of the peaks, smelling of wet earth, fermented indigo, and damp timber. The long hanks of raw silk hang motionless from the bamboo poles, suspended in the cool, moist air, completely open to the dark night without needing an airtight box or an iron latch to guarantee their safety. There is a profound, effortless ease in allowing your physical frame to mirror that open timber sanctuary. You do not need to justify your weariness to anyone tonight, nor do you need to force your mind to feel completely secure before sleep takes hold. In this protected, shadowy space, you are granted full permission to put away the heavy iron mail once and for all. You do not need to stand guard over your past wounds, nor do you need to prove your strength through relentless muscle tension. You are allowed to be simply a breathing, living body resting in the dark, supported by the unyielding bed beneath you, and cradled by the cool, gentle air of the night. Consider how the ancient stone foundation of the tower supports the open arches above. It does not strain against the mountain wind, nor does it demand that the sky remain clear before it offers its steady floor. It simply rests on the granite bedrock, solid, spacious, and vast, holding the entire structure without tension, allowing the breezes to sweep through the open windows without losing a single stone. When you stop fighting the natural openness of your own life, your spirit finds that same unshakable foundation. You no longer need to spend your vital energy trying to build rigid walls around your heart, nor do you need to carry the exhausting strain of constant vigilance. You can allow your body to be as open as the stone arches, trusting that true security lies in your innate capacity to let the wind pass through. Feel the deep, restorative heaviness spreading into your arms, your back, and your legs. Your chest rises and falls with a quiet, unforced rhythm, expanding easily into the cool air and settling back down without a trace of resistance. The muscles around your jaw, your neck, and your upper spine are smooth and completely unstrung. Like raw silk resting in a gentle draft, your hands lie still upon the sheets, their fingers soft and slightly curved, entirely freed from the impulse to clutch, to lock, or to hold tight against the world. If a quiet memory of an old shock or a faint wave of future uncertainty drifts across your awareness in these dark hours, let it move through without trying to block it or fix it. You do not need to bolt your internal doors against it, nor do you need to analyze why it visited your mind tonight. View it merely as a cool puff of mountain air passing through an open stone window, entering one side of the tower and gliding harmlessly out the other into the vast dark sky. The broad, open room of your true awareness remains cool, clear, and untouched, holding boundless space for every passing feeling to enter and dissolve in peace. The quiet night continues to hold your room in its soft, protective embrace, keeping the sharp demands, the loud noise, and the rigid expectations of the waking world far beyond your door. The dark hours move forward without any effort on your part, soothing your tired nervous system and restoring your body for the dawn. There are no performance tests waiting for your spirit right now, no battle positions you must maintain, and no past hurts that require your Latinite defense. You are held in a spacious, gentle sanctuary that asks for nothing, expects nothing, and welcomes your weary heart back home to rest. Let your forehead broaden, let your eyes sink into soft darkness, and allow your head to rest deeply upon the pillow. Your breathing has become light, slow, and nearly imperceptible, moving like a soft draft through the open timber eaves of an alpine arbor. Each gentle breath brings a cool sense of weightless presence to your chest, and each long exhalation carries away the very last traces of bodily guarding, leaving your spirit unburdened, spacious, and completely at rest. You are safe to step out of your heavy mail forever now. You are safe to let your mind drift into the vast, quiet dark where no rigid walls exist, no demands for total control can reach you, and no old fears can hold your muscles tight. Permit your eyelids to remain heavy and still. Allow your waking thoughts to dissolve into the cool night air, and let yourself float effortlessly into the deep, sweet ocean of undisturbed sleep. And as the quiet darkness enfolds your resting frame in unbroken peace, let your spirit sink into this one final, enduring comfort, that the unshakable safety you spent years trying to build out of rigid armor was never something you had to fight for, but was quietly waiting, all along, in the clear, open space of your own yielding heart. And that open, yielding heart is the true home you have been seeking all along. In this soft, subterranean stillness, every remaining knot of tension across your collarbones and upper back dissolves into the cool, dark air of your room. The long, exhausting war you waged against your own human vulnerability has ended completely, leaving no heavy shutters to bolt, no iron mail to strap across your ribs, and no severe standards of physical readiness to maintain. Everything that ever felt sharp, cold, or terrifying about facing the unpredictable world has settled like fine indigo dust onto damp timber, becoming part of the quiet, steady earth that carries you while you rest. Picture the mountain valley now as the deepest dark turns toward early morning, wrapped in soft, cool mist. The high alpine winds have quieted into a gentle, imperceptible breath among the pine branches, passing through the stone arches of the bell tower and down across the surface of the mountain stream. Deep within the valley, the ancient slate bedrock holds its massive weight in total stillness, unmoving, grounded, and entirely at peace with the dark skies surrounding it. The heavy timber frames of the dye house rest in their quiet recess, their dark wood cool and untroubled, enveloped by an unbroken sanctuary where no sudden gale can break a single beam. There is a profound, weightless comfort in allowing your mind to settle into that same vast open peace. You do not need to prove the strength of your internal armor tonight, nor do you need to justify the quiet, uncelebrated path you have walked to reach this bed. In this dark, protected space, you are invited to let your tired heart put down its heavy shield once and for all. You do not need to display your resilience, carry old burdens of self-defense, or worry about whether you can protect yourself from tomorrow's unknown turns. You are completely permitted to be a breathing body resting in the dark, held safely by the bed beneath you, and cradled by the calm, penescented air around you. Consider how the granite canyon holds the massive foundation stones of the mountain pass. It does not strain against the weather above, nor does it demand that the sky remain clear before it offers its support. It simply remains open, steady, and vast, cradling the heavy stone in its deep, cool floor, allowing the weight to rest where nature intended while the high peaks stand securely in the quiet dark. When you stop fighting the reality of your human sensitivity, your spirit discovers that same unshakable rest. You no longer need to spend your vital energy trying to build iron walls around your chest, nor do you need to carry the sorrow of feeling exposed. You can allow your inner life to exist in its own time, knowing that your true awareness is whole, spacious, and completely unblemished. Feel the deep, restorative heaviness settling through every muscle in your frame. Your back, hips, and shoulders drop lower into the mattress, releasing the very last traces of held guarding from your body. Your breath moves in and out with a rhythm so quiet, so gentle, that it feels like a soft mountain breeze drifting across cool river stones. Your hands lie open and still upon the sheets, completely empty of all striving, all searching, and all hyper-vigilant muscle tension. If a stray thought or faint worry about an upcoming choice wanders across the quiet space of your mind, let it drift past without trying to hold it or push it away. You do not need to examine it, solve it, or follow where it goes. View it merely as a single speck of damp fog floating through the open stone arches of the tower, carried away by the gentle current until it disappears into the quiet night. The clear sky of your awareness remains vast, cool and undisturbed, holding infinite space for everything to arise and pass away in peace. The quiet darkness wraps gently around your room, offering an impenetrable wall of protection against the demands and expectations of the waking world. The hours pass softly in the dark, bringing deep healing to your nervous system and complete stillness to your mind. There are no tasks left for you to complete, no standards of armor left to maintain, and no past hurts that require your latinite repair. You are held in a quiet, spacious sanctuary that asks for nothing, expects nothing, and welcomes your spirit into total, unconditional rest. Let your forehead broaden, let your cheeks soften, and allow your head to sink deeper into the quiet comfort of your pillow. Your breath has grown so light, so slow, that it moves through you without any effort at all, like mist drifting gently through an open alpine arbor. Each soft inhalation brings a cool sense of space to your chest, and each quiet exhalation carries away the final remnants of the day, leaving your heart clear, still, and completely untroubled. You are safe to let go of the last thread of waking thought. Now you are safe to let your consciousness slip into the vast, warm dark where no rigid walls can weigh upon you, no expectations can reach you, and no old fears can hold your body tight. Permit your eyes to rest heavy and still. Allow your mind to step down from its long watch, and let yourself float effortlessly into the deep, sweet ocean of undisturbed sleep. And as the quiet darkness enfolds your frame in complete peace, Let your spirit sink into this one final enduring comfort, that the unshakable wholeness you were always searching for was never lost in the storms of the past, but was quietly waiting all along in the open, spacious depth of this very breath.